Right now, hip-hop is reeling from the biggest concert disaster in its history, Astroworld 2021. As the story continues to unravel, here's everything we know about the events of that tragic day and what the fallout means for Travis Scott and all parties involved. Where the rock music sector had witnessed concert stampedes and mid-gig fatalities, the rap world has, for the most part, avoided such tragedies. And when Travis Scott took to the stage at the 3rd annual edition of his festival, he could have had no way of knowing what horrors lurked just around the corner, even if conspiracy theorists on TikTok would do their utmost to inform you otherwise. And while the earlier stages of the festival at Houston's NRG Park had gone off without a hitch, an eyewitness account from attendee Cynthia Lira has revealed from that the very moment that an on-screen timer informed festival goers that the multi-platinum selling artist would be taking to the stage in 10 minutes, people started pushing so hard that I could not move my arms and my chest was being squished to the point that I could not breathe. Within a short period of time, things progressed to the point that Cynthia was screaming, "I can't breathe, I'm going to die," multiple times. Sadly, tales such as Cynthia's are just the tip of the iceberg in terms of the human toll of the event. And while she escaped with superficial injuries and a clear CT scan, others weren't so lucky. To date, 10 people have perished from injuries sustained at Astroworld, with hundreds more injured. The youngest fatality, Ezra Blunt, was just 9 years old. Regarded as one of the landmark hip-hop festivals of the year, Astroworld was supposed to be a place of escapism for its attendees. Instead, it turned into a living hell that is unlike anything we've ever seen in hip-hop. And in the process, 10 families lost treasured loved ones in circumstances that they couldn't have imagined when they said goodbye earlier that day. And as the whole host of footage that emerged from the chaos has made all too evident, the atmosphere quickly turned from partying to sheer panic and terror. With fragments of information from both attendees and industry professionals beginning to come together, a picture of what happened and, more crucially, where things went so wrong is slowly taking shape. And if there are any reoccurring themes, it's that failure to act or prepare played a key role in a tragedy that's looking as though it could have been averted. According to reports, the event was declared a mass casualty event by Houston's emergency service at 9:38 p.m. In spite of this, Travis played for a further 40 minutes, even as ambulances were visibly swarming into the crowd in an attempt to prevent further loss of life. In a move that has led many to condemn Travis, video footage has surfaced of the artist surveying the scene from the stage, and upon spotting the ambulance, he briefly pauses before deciding to continue with the show.
It's an ambulance in the crowd. Whoa, whoa, whoa. If everybody good, put a middle finger up in the sky. Okay, where my guy, man? Y'all know what y'all came to do. Chase me, let's go. I want to make this ground shake, goddammit. Whoa.
Not only did Travis opt to continue, but so too did his most determined ragers, with some fans even dancing on top of the very ambulances that were intended to save lives. Speaking to Good Morning America, Travis Scott's lawyer, Ed McPherson, has said that Travis had no idea of the magnitude of what was going on, and didn't find out until he headed to Drake's afterparty at a nearby Dave & Buster's. In fact, he even denied that LaFlame was aware of ambulances in the audience.
Travis didn't really understand the full effect of everything until the next morning. Truly, he did not know what was going on. As you could see from the clip right there, he's on a riser at one point and he sees one boy down and he actually asks security, stops the show, he asks security to get to that person. There were a couple other times, one with, you say an ambulance, but it looked more like a golf cart with some lights. He wasn't sure what that was, but he stopped the show for that.
Despite fans' best efforts to take it upon themselves to stop the show, the staff on hand seemed unwilling to do so. Fans mount the production area to ask him to stop filming. In the wake of the tragic events, Houston Police Chief Troy Finner, who has also claimed that he warned Travis personally about the energy in the crowd, has said that even if they wanted to, he and his officers were powerless to draw proceedings to a close.
The ultimate authority to end a show is with production and the entertainer, okay? And that should be through communication with public safety officials.
On top of local law enforcement, the FBI have now joined the inquest into the event. While on Finner's part, he has claimed it may take months for any real conclusions to be drawn in terms of who should be held accountable. In the meantime, CNN has obtained an operations plan for the festival, and in doing so, discovered that the executive producer and the festival director were appointed as the only two people with the authority to put an end to the show. Shockingly, Paul Wertheimer, founder and president of Crowd Management Strategies, told the news outlet that there alongside the news that the term Smurf should be used on the security's radios in the event that a dead person was found. There was also no contingencies in place for the possibility of fans being trampled. There's no reference to crowd surge, crowd rush, crowd panic, he declared. There's no reference to the front of the stage and festival seating crowd. And therefore, there's no specific emergency planning for a mass casualty crowd crush event. On the subject of security, it appears that there may have been inadequacies in that department too. After claims that a security guard was injected with drugs proved to be inaccurate, CSC, the private firm that provided security at the event, is being placed under the microscope. Following the tragedy, one former employee claimed that they weren't capable of handling something of that scale and had no issue hiring people who weren't sufficiently qualified. Is CSC doing enough in terms of making sure that security guards are prepared to do the job? Employee: my honest opinion, no, not for something like this. You're not trained to deal with this situation, a major situation like what happened at the Travis Scott concert. Whatever the case may be, it's clear that the footage of fans storming the barriers and streaming into the festival as hapless security stand by and watch certainly won't help their case. At time of recording, Travis and organizers Live Nation have received over 108 lawsuits, and that number is expected to rise as more fans look for more compensation than the refund that was offered. Leading the charge on the legal front is Benjamin Crump, a notable North Carolina attorney who specializes in civil rights, wrongful death lawsuits, and catastrophic personal injury. At present, he's representing more than 200 victims, and the lawyer hasn't held back in his criticism of Travis, Live Nation, and others. We will make sure that they get justice because this should have never happened. They never fathomed that it would be the worst nightmare of their life, witnessing people get killed, said Crump. This was so very preventable. Had people been focused on crowd control, had people been focused on safety provisions, focused on protocols, he continued. We want the message to be loud and clear to Live Nation and everybody involved. We expect you to do better in the future, and we expect you to do right by everybody who was injured physically or psychologically at the Astroworld Festival. As a protester stands outside his Houston home with a sign which campaigns for him to go bankrupt, Travis has canceled all of his recent shows, including a one-off date in Saudi Arabia that was expected to rake in $5.5 million. In the wake of the tragedy, Nike has also announced that they'll be postponing their upcoming Nike Air Max collab with Travis's Cactus Jack Records until further notice. Meanwhile, the reality of what can happen at a show in which crowd control isn't a priority has meant that everyone from Playboi Carti to IDK have been issuing PSAs at their shows, complete with ground rules and instructions on how to keep everyone safe. During a recent show in Salt Lake City, TDE's R&B star SZA stopped the show after a fan passed out and directly addressed the Astroworld tragedy.
Some might think, hey, people pass out all the time, blah, 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 but people don't die at concerts all the time.
Whatever happens from here, it seems like Travis Scott has a long road back into the public's good graces. While for the live music industry, the event has been a reckoning, which will ensure that they need to take all necessary steps to prevent anything like this from ever happening again. RapTV sends their condolences to all of the victims of the Astroworld tragedy and their families.